Adam, you've been a builder now for how many years in the city of Edmonton?
On my own, about 10 years now.
About 10 years. That's fantastic. And you've done some of the more interesting projects that I've ever seen. And one of the most interesting projects I think early on that you were doing was, a lot of people were focused on corner lots, corner lots, corner lots. And then you went in and did something amazing on an inside lot and created density that we didn't really see around the city at the time, but now we're seeing more and more pop up. Can you tell everybody what that is or what that was?
Yeah, so we had some clients that had some lots that were non-corner lots, but the same size as your typical 50 by 150 corner lot. And they wanted to know what they could do to make some money and, building or hiring a builder to build you skinny homes or duplexes. Just didn't have a return on investment, especially when you add that middleman being the builder into it. So the drafter I have, we kind of brainstormed over a while. Even this is back in the old bylaws, and came up with a way to fit a triplex with suites, and in some cases even add a four-car garage with two suites above that to give people 8 units on a mid-block lot.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is fantastic. And while all the attention is on these corner lots with these multiple offers and the prices getting driven
Oh
up,
yeah.
you're seeing opportunity where others weren't seeing opportunity.
Yeah, and actually one of the lots that we did it on was one that is a private off-market deal from your team. So we thank you for that. But yeah, there was a huge discrepancy. People would pay in one neighborhood, let's say, for example, 400,000 for a corner lot. A mid-block lot might be 300 for the same, and you're not getting that extra 100,000 in, resale or in rent. So really, it's just a larger investment for the same return that you would have got for
Yeah.
less.
Absolutely. It's smart, and it's smart seeing the opportunity before everybody else does. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and that's what we're going to talk about, at Recon. So, if I were to look at the amount of builders that we had in 2023 and the amount of builders that we had in 2024 and 2025, it seems like we're adding every single year. There's like I don't know, maybe like a 25% increase every year from builder names. It's insane on how many builders are coming into the market, especially focusing on infill, right? You won't see the same growth with greenfield builders, but with infill builders, it seems like there's just tons that are popping up every other week or so. And it doesn't mean that they're reputable, and a lot of them don't have a track record, which you need to be careful of, especially engaging in, a very expensive project over a very long period of time without being able to walk around and see and feel it. But it seems like everybody's trying to make profit with it. What kind of profits are you seeing right now, typically from like the building standpoint on these 6 unit, 7 unit, 8 unit, 9 unit buildings? Are you still seeing the profitability? Has it changed based on what you're having to buy lots for, based on sale price?
So that's a good question. I guess there's a few ways to kind of look at it. There definitely are more builders. I think that you've had some builders that moved from doing maybe skinnies or smaller projects into doing some of the larger ones, and you've had people who just want to. We actually had a client, maybe one of them, who said, well, he wants to try and build it himself rather than hire us. So like I think you're getting people who might be a little bit green and they want to take it on themselves, either because they're passionate about it, they want to save the money, or they just feel like they're inclined to do so. And some will succeed, and definitely some probably won't, just like in any industry. Um, yeah, so the lots have gone up. Even the mid-block lots now are costing more than they did just a few years ago. Construction costs have unfortunately gone up as well. They're not going up at the same rate as maybe during, say, COVID, but we're still seeing some increases. And one other increase that kind of has popped up is there's more regulation or red tape or rules from the city. So we're having to do things sometimes rather related to the services or power and water and some of the other rules the city has added some costs. What's helped to balance that out is the fact that there's been more rents have increased in the city, and we've also had a slow lowering of interest rates so that end user investor can still get the same return on investment, maybe slightly better. Now, I don't want to sound like overly optimistic and pump everyone's tires, because there will become a point where if costs increase, whether that's land or construction, and rents stabilize or even say were to go down, or our interest rates were flat or didn't or even went up, that would be a hindrance to people continuing on with these types of projects. And we've also seen, the last thing I'll say is, when we first started doing more of these mid-block lots, you could pretty easily make the numbers work with 6 units, maybe 7. Now we're seeing everybody, clients, especially when they're doing their own financing, they're feeling like they have to stretch it to 8, and if it's a corner lot, they feel like they have to get up to 9 or 10 units to make the numbers work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it seems like when it comes to the financing side of things, if you want to get the best loan value, the higher number or the higher density is, ultimately what can help achieve that. Now, we probably saw the largest increase in these infill builds, these 8-unit buildings, 6, 7-unit buildings, from 2022 to 2024. Probably around the end of 2024 is where I think we saw the largest appreciation of these particular type of builds. And, before you could get these 8-unit buildings in a good C+ community for 1.9, 1.8, even in some cases, if you came early, and now you're getting them for, in the same communities for 2,100,000, like 2.1 kind of range, 2.15. But it also seems like it's slowed down considerably as well. It seems like, the activity behind the infill and the sale rate of them has slowed down considerably in comparison to what we were seeing in 2024. I don't know if you're noticing the slowdown, but I'm noticing that there was a big boost in activity, a lot of excitement, and then there was a lot more red tape. Now it seems to be a slowdown, but I also think, the end price has stabilized probably since the last 6 months. We haven't seen the same appreciation that we did see, but land value still seems to be quite the high demand. So it's like the entry price to get into these projects seems to be, somewhat stable, but still very high. The sale price on the end it doesn't seem like it's growing. I think depending on the community, if you're in like an A or a B community, I think you might see like a little bit of a increase in the price just because of the demand to live in those areas. But the cost to build and all this extra red tape that CMHC is requiring you to do, depending on how you're getting the loan, the extra metering that might be required, to the accessibility to the utility room. There's just more things that you have to step through. And I think what's happening is it's really squeezing the profitability down, especially if you can't get that end sale price, to reflect everything that goes into it. Are you noticing that as well, that it's kind of squeezing the profitability a little bit? Or are you noticing something completely opposite?
No, that's a good point, because I do follow, just for curiosity's sake, the MLS, and I think your team often holds the majority of the listings we see in the infills. And I've seen the price go up, but I've seen the sales. It hasn't been as high. When they do sell, they sell for more than they did. But like you said, they're not as many sales, and I think people are finding it harder to make those numbers work. Especially the CMHC brought in a lot of people attracted to like 5% down, long amortizations, and now people are going to have to put more money down. It's not as exciting, because that's sort of just how that environment, multifamily environment, was a few years ago, where you would just put 20 or 30% down and do a 30-year amortization. So I think there's a little less excitement, just because the numbers don't work as well as they did a few years ago. And the lots have gone up in value. I'll just point out one example. I have a friend who owned a corner lot, and he had bought it in a probably we'll call it a B neighborhood for 5 something, and he had thought about developing it. He doesn't have the time to do so, and now he's trying to resell it, but he's trying to sell it for like 7. He asked me about it. I'm like, I just can't. There's nothing I could think of that would make those numbers work. That an appraiser might say that it's worth that, but like you now have to find some use for that to justify those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, the nice thing about, the advantage of working with you, if you are considering building, it's just like doing your own like do-it-yourself project around the house. If I need to do a project around the house, like replace some cabinets, readjust the sink, like I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to hire someone else because I know how I'm going to do it. It's not going to turn out the same. The end product will not look the same. It'll take me 10 times longer. I'll be frustrated and it probably won't hold up. So when you go with a reputable builder like yourself and Skyward, you have the experience. You have a decade of failures and successes and little challenges that you've been able to iron out. So you're not really as much in this like learning process. You're in this process where you already have the experience moving forward. So you can, rely on a builder like yourself that can go into it with confidence and show you, how can we maximize the lot and even bring up solutions to problems that you didn't even anticipate were going to be problems because you have the ability to see ahead. And that's something that's a massive advantage that you would have.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And we do find that because rules change and the environment changes, that we are still learning and butting our heads up against challenges from time to time. So, yeah, I would say it would be pretty daunting to do it yourself. Not to discourage anyone from doing that, but there are a lot of roadblocks along the way. A lot come from the city and the financing in the background, but it is challenging, but it is exciting too at the same time.
Definitely. Where do you see Infill going for 2026?
Well, I think some of it will depend on the municipal election we have coming up in the fall. Because there was a few changes that came out this summer related to, I guess, some pushback from some Edmontonians that weren't happy with the density that could happen, especially on the mid-block lots. So they made a few changes, a few tweaks that do have an impact on some people's projects coming up. Now, depending on what the city council looks like after the election, you might see more changes get tabled and discussed, which, if I had to guess, I don't think they're going to be relaxing rules. I think it's more likely, if anything, that the rules will get a little more stringent or restrictive. And hopefully, or unlikely, it'll happen overnight. But I would say for people who are thinking of doing a multifamily project or looking for a lot right now, just keep that in the back of your mind, because if a lot you're buying, it works with 8 units, not to say you should budget for 5 or 6, but maybe act fast or don't be too surprised if the city starts pushing rules that could hinder your density.
Once you get which permit, when do you know you're in the clear with the city? After what permit do you know, like, okay, I made it past any new rules that come up, I'm going to be covered or grandfathered in? What is that permit that you need that is like, okay, we're good, we can move forward?
Yeah. So there's the 2 main permits are your development permit and your building permit. The development comes first, and that's the one you need. That's where the city's bylaws about how tall or how big something could be, that's where that gets reviewed. And so if you get past the development permit, you're in the clear unless building codes change. And that's not what we're talking about here. The building codes are not changing. If they are, they're just subtle things about electrical, plumbing, etc. So if you get past the development permit, then you're in the clear.
Yeah. You got to get that development permit. So if you have a lot right now, again, I completely agree with you. I don't think that we're going to be seeing the rules relax or allowing for greater density.
No.
We have to understand, like, the city of Edmonton was very courageous in their approach of allowing so much density like that. January 1st, 2024 is when they unlocked. It was 2024, I believe, if I remember correctly. January 1st, 2024. They opened the floodgates and they're like, we're doing it. We need to be able to handle the net migration that we're seeing in the city. and we want to lean into it. And I mean, since then, more schools have opened up that closed down inner city. Businesses seem to be doing better inner city because you're allowing the space for families to come in and not just focus on sprawling out. So instead of just growing out and having some of these inner communities suffer, now we're actually bringing families, revitalizing, seeing playgrounds with kids where normally you'd be seeing homeless and needles, right? It's a massive transition that we've seen, and you've been a big part of that in that change.
Yeah, to the city's credit, I've heard it from other people who live in other provinces that Edmonton sort of took the lead on that initiative. And even with a little bit of the tweaks they've made, which makes it a little bit more restrictive, I think we're still a lot further ahead than we were before, and than most cities are. The only thing that might have to get tweaked then is back to what your point was earlier, is maybe those land prices have to come back down a bit if people are going to make use of that lot, but with lower density.
Yeah. And it'll just take time for them to come down. We know they're not going to drop like that. People will hold on as long as they can. It might take 6 months to a year for people to hold on to these lots to finally realize, hey, I'm not going to be able to get the price that I once was able to. Yeah. Now I'm going to be willing to sell. And then once you start seeing a few people sell at the lower price, we'll see it snowball, and more people will realize that they have to become affordable again, because we definitely unless density changes for the better, I cannot foresee us increasing in land price higher than what we experienced at the middle, quarter 2, quarter 3 of 2024. I can't foresee us increasing in price higher than what we hit in those 2 quarters. I can see us slowly softening and then allowing more affordability so people can continue the process of infill development in a positive way. And I do think, if I were to look through a crystal ball, I can see a lot of the builders that have come through in the last 2 years because they've seen their friends, see great profits with these infill builds. I can see a lot of them come out. I can see a lot of builders retreat that don't have a strong foundation because they're not able to make the numbers work like they once were able to. So I think who's going to be left at the end standing are these reputable buildings or builders that have a strong foundation, great relationships, and have a great quality build. So I do think we're going to be seeing a bit of a transition in the overall quantity of builders for the Edmonton area.
Yeah, agreed. Anytime you have some challenges or slowing down of an economy or an element of the economy, it does seem to streamline, and kind of you lose some of the people that probably shouldn't have been there, and you get the ones that should have been, and they hopefully get even better from being there through those tough times.
Yeah. I would say right now, more than ever, you need to do your research on the builder that you're planning on engaging with, because as profits tighten, bankruptcy is going to be more prevalent as well. And it doesn't take much for a builder to just, that's it, I'm stopping mid-production, I can no longer make it work. Instead of them, being in the negative, I can see a lot of builders, and we've seen this before, and I've worked with a lot of listings before, where a client will engage in a builder expecting to have their home completed, but the home never gets completed.
Yeah.
The builder files for bankruptcy, and now they're left in a position where new home warranty or another builder needs to step in to finish the product. But you can understand how exhausting, time consuming, and if you're reliant on that possession date for your move and you don't have any extra capital to purchase another home or rent, I mean, you can really be put in a really terrible situation. So more than ever, you should be doing your research on these builders, because you could be put in a very terrible position, especially as we're seeing a shift in the infill market.
Yeah, 100%. It's the build, and then if that builder goes bankrupt after they built something for you, it's the warranty aspect. One of the biggest things that I've had to pay attention to as we've scaled in, like, the size of our projects and just the number of them, is the cash flow management, because building is not only an exercise in construction, but it's a huge exercise in managing money in and money out, and making sure that you're doing that balancing act. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, if people want to see you, they're coming to Recon September 6th and 7th, where they can pick your brain. Pick your brain on what are your builds looking like in 2026? What are you doing? Are you pioneering a new design that we've never seen before in Edmonton? Getting to know you a little bit more and what made you so successful and continues to make you successful. You're going to have the opportunity at Recon. We are almost sold out. And all of our discount codes are shut off as of midnight on Wednesday. So if you have any type of discount code, and I think, Adam, you have one in that you're able to offer your sphere, which I know is very, very large, that code will not work as of Wednesday at midnight. I don't even think you know that yet, but I'm announcing it that we're shutting it down because we're nearly sold out. And so we have to be able to tighten up some of the codes that we're getting right now. So here's your opportunity. Get your tickets now before it's too late. We will be talking about infill. We'll talk about development and where we feel like is going to be changing in a lot more detail than what we're doing right now. And most importantly, you can go ahead and meet Adam. Adam, what are you most excited for with Recon this year?
Last year was our first time, and it was probably one of my favorite events. I just like the way that it's just very well organized, where it gives everyone a chance to do some mingling, and then in between that, you guys have great presenters and opportunities to have like these round tables. So I know the whole thing is just very well organized, and I'm excited to see now that it's moving downtown.
I know it's going to be another level.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you next weekend, and always so much value. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you.